Good morning, my YouTube viewers. It is Crystal here. This is lesson 3 of my free intermediate Excel course. And in Excel, in lesson 3, we're going to be covering lookup functions such as vlookup, xlookup, and index and match. So that's what we're going to be covering in this lesson. You should have taken the basic Excel course already to learn basic Excel. So you should already know how to get into Excel to create a file, open a file, and edit a file. So you should already know that. So we're just going to go directly into Excel. And we're going to go into lesson 3. And basically what we're going to do is we're going to cover the lookup functions. So vlookup is an old lookup, and I use vlookup every week in my day job. And basically what I do is I have to take two spreadsheets, one spreadsheet that has appraisals and a second spreadsheet that has training. And then I have to say what teams these people are in. So I do like more than 100 people, like 120 people, something like that. And then I have to say what team they're in. And then I have to do a vlookup to take the team from an old spreadsheet and move it into a new spreadsheet. So I actually use vlookup every week. So the syntax for the vlookup, we'll go into that, but at the end of the function, you type either a true or a false. So if it's a true, it's going to be approximate match, and if it's a false, it's going to be an exact match. And I always type false so it can be an exact match. So what the vlookup does is it searches for a value in the first column. My thinking's much better than my typing. Or a table, and return corresponding value from another column in the same row. vlookup can only return values from a specified column to the right. It cannot look to the left, and this limits its usability. Then you have something called xlookup, and xlookup is a newer function. So xlookup appears in the newer versions of Excel. So I don't have a lot of experience on xlookup, but I did actually use xlookup to prepare for this course. So xlookup is going to be like a replacement for vlookup, and it has a lot more versatility. And then so with the syntax of xlookup, and we will go into the syntax of xlookup, you have to at the end of the function, you have to type in a 0. So a 0 or nothing is going to be an exact match. A -1 returns a next smaller item. A 1 returns a next larger item. And then number 2 is your wild card. And so I have actually done some exercises for xlookup, but as xlookup is a newer function, I haven't used that as much as vlookup. So I've been using vlookup for a few years now. And what happened was I was asked to every week make a training sheet, and then do the training, make your training report every week. And then so you have these, you get a spreadsheet with appraisals, and then another spreadsheet with training, and then but you don't get the team. You have to enter the team in. And so I use vlookup to transfer the team from an old spreadsheet into a new spreadsheet. But I've not used xlookup before in my day job, because I've been using vlookup for such a long time, and xlookup is a new function. And you also have index and match, which is an alternative to vlookup. And so basically, 1 finds the largest value less than or equal to the lookup value. 0 finds the first exact value equal to the lookup value, and -1 finds the smallest value greater than or equal to the lookup value. So index and match are an alternative to vlookup. And the reason why is because vlookup can only check a column of data, work on a column of data to the right of the original column of data, the original base column of data. So if you need something to the left, then you can't use vlookup. And so index and match are an alternative to vlookup. But if you have the newer version of Excel, then you can use xlookup, which is supposed to be a replacement to vlookup and xlookup. And I haven't used xlookup that much. It's mostly vlookup that I've been using. So now what we're going to do is we're going to look at vlookup. And so this is just some data that I've made up. It's made up data. So you've got 11 employees. So you've got employee number 1 to 11. And you've got the names of the employees that I typed in, and then you've got the dates that their appraisal is due. So I've typed in the date that their appraisal is due. So one person gets an appraisal every month. So that covers 11 months of the year. And then also say what team they're on. And I typed that up. I typed up the team that they're on. So you've got the employee number, the employee name, when their appraisal is due, and the team that they're on. And so basically we want to take the training, and the way I do it in my day job is I actually take the copy and paste some of the appraisal data onto a new spreadsheet, but I delete a few of the columns as well. And then I copy and paste the training data onto that same spreadsheet. And then so we're going to be, you've got the employee number for the appraisal data, and then you've got the employee number for the training data. And this is a long spreadsheet. It's got a lot of columns to it because it goes through all the training where I work. And then so basically, and then so on this new spreadsheet where I've copied and pasted it, and then I use vlookup to find the team that they're in, and this team is actually going to be, copying from an existing spreadsheet. And so that's what we want to find out. We want to find out what team they're in, because we're going to break it down into teams, because each team is actually given a list of what training needs to be done. And so the spreadsheet that I use is much larger than this spreadsheet. And actually the appraisals are on one spreadsheet, and then the training is on a second spreadsheet. But this is the gist of it. So we've got our first spreadsheet here with the appraisals, and then our second spreadsheet here with our training. You've got your employee number, you've got your employee name, you've got your whether training is complete or not. So I've just entered this data in here, whether their training is complete or not. And then I use vlookup to find out what team they're on. So you type vlookup brackets G2, which is the employee number, and then we're going to use absolute referencing, which I think that we covered absolute referencing in lesson 1. So A2 to D12 with absolute referencing, And number 4 is going to be the 4th column of data, which is the team. And false means that you're looking for an exact match. So that's what we've got there. And then so like when you use absolute referencing, that means because Excel is set up for relative referencing. So when you move the formula over to another cell, then it will change that data on a relative basis. But if you want that the cell references to be the same no matter what you do, then you have to use absolute referencing. So the $sign before the column and the row is your absolute referencing. And so basically, that's what we did. And then so you copy this down. You've got your absolute referencing in there. And so you copy and paste it down. So that means that you don't have to put the formula into every cell. You just copy and paste it into every cell. And since you've got absolute referencing, then A2 to D12 is going to stay there. And so you can see on this employee number 2 is going to be G3. Employee number 3 is going to be G4, all the way down until you get to employee number 11, which is G12. So this is the code for vlookup, and you can try it yourself. So I'm showing you how I do vlookup, but the way I do it, I have to deal with like maybe 120 staff. And so the appraisal is one spreadsheet, the training is a second spreadsheet, and then I create a third spreadsheet to combine appraisals and training. And I put the bits from appraisals that I want in the third spreadsheet, and then I put the bits from the training that I want in the spreadsheet as well. And then my training spreadsheet is a lot more complex than what you see here, but I had to make it something readable and easy. So rather than put every training class, I just put training complete, just to give you an idea. So now we're going to look up at xlookup, and xlookup is a new function, and it is intended to be a replacement for vlookup and xlookup. I never really used xlookup a lot. I've used vlookup every week, and even though xlookup is a new function, I'm still using vlookup just because I've been using it for such a long time, and I learned how to use it. But if I ever... good thing about xlookup is you can use xlookup on any row of any column of the spreadsheet that you want. With vlookup, you've got your reference column or your reference cell, and then you can only check it the cell or the column on the right. That's one of the limiting factors of vlookup. But xlookup will allow you to check a column or a cell on the left or the right, which is an improvement over vlookup. And then so that's why you probably should, since xlookup is a newer function, you probably should learn how to use xlookup and use xlookup in your work. And so basically, I've got 2 examples here to show you how to use xlookup. And it's, you can make these examples as complex as you want, but because it's a training environment, I just put the 2 examples on the one page. But if I had wanted to, I could put one example on one page and the other example on a second page. And if I really wanted to, I could have put like the reference data on one page and the data that you're going to find on a second page. But I just decided to keep it simple I just decided to keep it simple. So we've got our employee number. It's the same employees that we had for vlookup. And you've got 11 employees, and each employee has an assigned number. Then you've got the employee name. So each employee has their employee name. And then so what you want to do is you want to find the employee number. You want to type in the employee number, and you want to find the employee name based upon the employee number. And just to spice it up a bit, I sorted the numbers. So rather than from being the smallest to the largest, I made it the largest to the smallest. And so that's what I did. And so now we're going to, you've got the employee number, and you're going to find the employee name from the employee number. So you've got xlookup brackets D2, which is the employee number, that is your reference. And then we've got absolute referencing. So you've got $A, $2 to $A, $12. And that is the column of data that you are going to check for this common number. And then you've got $B, $2 to $B, $12. And that is the output. That's what you want to output, what you want to print. So you can see the reference column is an absolute reference, and the output column is also an absolute reference. And then so if what you're looking for does not appear in the reference column, then you're going to get a message saying not found. So you can see we've got this xlookup when we're using absolute referencing. And the great thing about xlookup is you can make it look for any column. The output can be any column that you want. It just so happened that the column that I used is on the right of the employee number column, but if it had been on the left, it would have been acceptable too. And then so again, you don't have to type this formula in for every cell. You just do a copy and a paste. And then when you use the copy and the paste, it automatically moves the formula down, and the cells that you do not have assigned for absolute referencing have relative referencing, and it'll move down for you. And so you can see the D4, you can see the relative referencing moves down as well. So you come down to the very end, and there's not anything in employee number on D13. So there is no employee number to look for. So it gives you a message saying not found. So basically that's a system that enables you to locate the name of employee based upon their employee number. And so now we've got another example, and this is something that I made up just to prepare for this course. You've got your product number, and so I've given every product a product number. So the cables and the charger are A, which means ancillary, because I made it up myself. You know, I had to think it up myself. S means smartphone, T means tablet, L means laptop, C means computer, P means printer, and M means monitor. So we've got the product number of the product that you're going to sell, and then you've got a column with the product. So in addition to the product number, you also have the product, and then you have the price. So I've just made up some prices. I don't have an iPhone, so I don't know how much an iPhone or an iPad or an Apple computer cost. So I just made it up, you know. And so what we're going to do is we're going to use xlookup. We're going to type in iPhone because that's what we want to find the price of an iPhone. And then you're going to do xlookup So xlookup brackets L2, which is iPhone, and then we used our absolute referencing for I2 to I14, which is the product, and then the output is going to be J2 to J14, which is the price. And if it's not found, then if it's not there, then you're going to get a message that says not found. So we look up the product with iPhone, and then it retrieves a price of 1,000, and I checked it and it works. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to look up the product number. So I want to look up a smartphone. So S001 is an Android smartphone. And then so we want to look up the price of S001. So you've got xlookup, and then you've got L5, which is the value that you're looking for. And then you've got H2 to H14 using absolute referencing. And then so, and you've got J for the reference, and you've got J2 to J14 for the price. And these are absolute references as well. And then so if something isn't there, you'll get a message that says not found. So we check S001, and it gives you a price of £400. And I just gave that because I was looking in the Argos catalog, and the Argos catalog said that an Android smartphone, like a Samsung in particular, is several £100s. So let's just come over here where it says, let's say iPhone, and let's just use another product. Let's just say earphones. We're going to say earplug. So you get a message saying not found. And then so we're going to go over here to charger, and then it says it's £10. So let's look at the product. So let's say S001 is what we had been looking for. So let's say S003, because there's not an S003 in there, and it says not found. So let's check an iPhone. So at S02, sorry. So you got so you can see that it works, and then you can expand upon this. So you can have like one page with the product number, product, and the price, and then you can have an extra page to look up the data if you want. And then also if you wanted to expand upon this spreadsheet to give you a stock level and the supplier, you could always do that. So you could have like two spreadsheets, one with the product number and the product and the price, and then another spreadsheet with the product number and the stock number and the supplier, and then you could use xlookup to look up all that information. So these are just two examples that I've come across using xlookup, which I'm still using vlookup in my day job, but I did actually prepare this xlookup for you just to show you how it works. And if I ever have to research something on the left of the reference cell, then definitely I'll use xlookup. So xlookup is a replacement for vlookup. It's a newer function. So now what we're going to do is we're going to use index and match. So index and match is actually an alternative to vlookup, and the reason why that is because vlookup will only let you check columns of data or cells of data to the right of the reference. So if you have to check something that's to the left of the reference, then now you can use xlookup But if you haven't got xlookup on your Excel, if you've got an older version of Excel, then you can use index and match. So what I've done is I've got an example here for you, show you how to use index and match. So we've got the same employee numbers that we've used in the last examples. We're saying what day that their appraisal is due. We're saying what team they're on. It's either executive, administration, catering, or laborer. And you've got their salary. And so basically what I did was I had sorted the employees through their salary, because the executives are obviously going to be paid more money than the administration staff and the catering staff and the laborer. So we're going to use index and match. So we're going to find the employee ID, which is 6, is going to be Mickey Mouse. And we want to find out how much Mickey Mouse is making. So you say index, brackets, and then again, you're going to use absolute referencing. So you're going to say E2 to E12. That's going to be your salary. That's what you're looking for. And then you're going to say match is brackets G2, which is that's ID that you're looking for. And then A2 to A12, absolute referencing, which is the ID numbers of the employees. And 0, it means that you're looking for the exact number. So I typed 6 in there. So 6 is Mickey Mouse, and he makes 80,000 pounds a year. So we're going to put in here, just to say it's pounds. So let's type in 1. Let's see how much the Batman makes. Type in 1. So Batman gets 100,000 a year. Let's type in 12. So you get an error on number 12, which is telling you that 12 does not exist. And if you remember our previous lessons, like maybe it was lesson 2, I think you can put in, if it's an if NA or if error, it can give you a not found message, but I didn't do it in this example. So let's see how much Big Bird is making. So Big Bird is only getting 25,000. So that way, what you can do, this is just an example, you can take the employee number and you can find out the salary based upon the employee number. And you can use this index and match as an alternative to vlookup. But now that if you've got an older version of Excel, but the newer version of Excel gives you xlookup. So xlookup might be a better bet. So that concludes this video. That concludes lesson 3. Lesson 4 is going to be text functions and data cleaning. So I hope that you decide to watch lesson 4 and that you've got something out of this lesson. So thank you for watching, and I will be communicating with you in the next lesson.